myself, Ben Raza, Fantasy Golf Man, Tim Frank, WGC Mexico, Chapultepec. We got all sorts of things going on. Welcome to the show, Tim Frank. Ready for a non-cut?
I think I'm ready for a non-cut. Yeah, I used to hate these events. I never liked the non-cut format, but then I've kind of been coming around to it lately. Our old partner Hot Magic kind of talked some sense into me, and it's really true. Like if you trust your projection or you trust your read on the tournament and the players, you're really just taking out the variance of a cut, and that's what he always used to say, and it's kind of true. So really, if you believe in all of your thought process, you're taking out the randomness of the cut. So yeah, I've kind of come around on these no cut events.
No, none of that.
You're not.
I need as much variance as I can get, I guess, because I'm super pro cut. Yeah, I mean, I will say in truth, I've actually become more apt to play these. I used to honestly really not like them. I think the Olympics, for some reason, turned the corner for me with Effie Barnett, but we don't need to talk about that. It is a little different. I do want to talk a little Genesis at the top of the show, but before we even do that, I want to say the sponsor of the show is Super Draft. As you guys know, their multiplier mode is kind of changing the game here. Different format, no salary constraints. You get an opportunity incentivized to play some of those deeper targets in golf. It's an interesting format. So we're going to be talking about that throughout the show. If you haven't signed up, promo code AWESEMO, you get $20 free on your first deposit of $100 or more over at superdraft.io. So yeah, I mean, Genesis, part of the reason maybe why I'm talking about why I love cuts is Decky's dart on the 36th hole was crucial for me. What did you make of the tournament? I thought the course was fantastic. Riviera, my God, they need majors there.
I was like on both sides of the fence. Like it produces great golf tournaments. It produces great winners, exciting events. But all the missed short putts, I feel like is somewhat gimmicky. And I know it's like, I had a lot of things that I wanted to tweet, but I'm like, I'm just going to lose followers. Like the golf architecture purists are just going to hate me. I was going to tweet like, it's like, if you put bent grass greens there, you'd have the John Deere Classic or something just because. But yeah, I mean, it's a great event. The carnage on Friday was unbelievable. Guys, just Bubba, Sungjae, I know Baddeley wasn't a big part of it, but I know Nelson Adcock was tweeting about Baddeley. He missed like a 2-footer. Like so many guys could not make that putt to make the cut on the number on Friday. That was super interesting. I was rooting for more carnage. I was rooting for Decky to miss the cut. He didn't. And like all the reasons why you want guys like that to miss the cut, that came true, and he just torched the place on the weekend. But yeah, it's it's a great event. Yeah, I loved last week. It was awesome. And I mean, the missed short putts, that's just part of it. And I think it just makes more of a talking point, makes, for more conversation. But yeah, it was an awesome week.
I will say the missed putts, and I can say this objectively, I try to be objective on the show. I deserved better last week. I had Decky, Bryson, Cantlay combos all over, and those three of the guys in contention putted as bad as you could. Kuchar went nuts, gained 9 strokes putting. Listen, I didn't love that, but honestly, the 10th hole just enamored me. I thought it was fascinating to watch guys not even be able to. Yeah, I mean, birdie was, especially on Sunday, birdie was not really happening. It was, can they save par on a 285-yard hole?
Yeah, it's not an easy hole, and I mean, there's not eagles there, and unless you hit the green, which is unlikely, or leave it in the perfect spot, right in front of the green with a nice chip. It's not easy. I mean, you had guys going 80 yards left and they were hitting like 3/4 wedges, guys going back and forth between all those bunkers. I love that hole. I mean, it's really fun to watch because it looks like it should be, if you just look at the card, you're like, oh, this is an easy birdie, kind of maybe similar to 17 at Waste Management, but it's like nothing like that.
No. But we'll get into it. We'll go to WGC Mexico. We got chat. We got some good fellas in there. What's up, everybody? We got a Cameron Smith mention already. It's going to be a good show here. I do want to say last thing about the Genesis, because he's not in it this week. Your boy, Denny McCarthy, 10.9 strokes gained putting last week. Lost 6.5 off the tee, gained 10.9 putting, cruised to 37th. He is the best putter in the world.
Yeah, it's crazy because he's so bad everywhere else. Like everybody wants to kind of compare him to like a poor man's Spieth, what Spieth was doing, but Spieth was like good, a decent ball striker, and then just ran like a god putting, and that's why he won all those tournaments and all those majors. Like Denny McCarthy is awful at everything, but just puts the lights out, and it's good enough for him to make a lot of cuts. And did he win an event? Did he win
Kenny
a terrible?
McCarthy? I
I
don't
can't
think
remember.
so.
I hate to put you on the spot there,
Who knows?
but it's just hilarious how bad he is. But man, that putter, that's insane.
It is. Anyway, we're on to Mexico and Cincinnati. 72 players, non-cut, Chapultepec. They played this event 2017, 2018, 2019. So if you're looking at course history, you got 3 years to go off of. Tim, what do you make of it? We know there's elevation. You like this course?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting course, very unique, obviously. Um, so it's 7,300 yards. What is it, 7,500 feet of elevation. So, I mean, I think it plays as one of the shortest courses on tour.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I have the math right, but yeah, it's basically playing like, 6,600 yards or something ridiculous. And I always go back to the first year they played this event where they showed the pictures of it. And it looks super tight and tree line. It kind of looks like some mountainy version of like Harbor Town or something with these like tight corridors. So I was expecting it, along with the altitude and the, adjusted length, to play really to the strength of the shorter hitters. And that was not the case. It turned out being kind of like bombs away. And, I don't know if that's more of a case of that's what the course demands or rewards, or it's like these are the best players in the field and 95% of them are bombers. And so that's just what you're going to get at the top. But anyway, yeah, it's really the longer hitters have had success here. DJ and Rory were 1 and 2 last year. We had Phil, JT, RCB, and Hatton the year before, and then DJ, Fleetwood, Fisher, and Rahm the year before that. Minus 21, minus 16, minus 14. The winning score has kind of been all over the place. But, with no cut, with it's par 71, but we have a drivable par 4. I think we're looking, I'm looking at the bombers again this week. We're looking at guys that can make birdies and eagles because we're getting 4 guaranteed rounds out of them. But, all that being said, if you have a good lean on a short hitter, it doesn't play very long. So, I mean, you're going to have a lot of short clubs into these holes.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to lean with the part that you said where, like, when DJ wins, I don't think, oh, this is a bomber's course, personally.
Right.
Like, it's not heritage, but it's I don't think it really matters when DJ or Rory win an event to shape the event. Now, if like Ryan Fox is winning the event, okay, now we're looking at something. Like if Russell Knox is winning the event, we're looking at something. So for me, it's an interesting course. I think there's a lot of different ways to play it. Public greens, there's a lot of chip-ins, tree-lined. I don't really have a strong lean. I think, of course, you want to be crisp with the irons. The biggest thing for me is that they've played it, and most of these guys have because it's a WGC. But we've seen some guys go out and the elevation, their irons are off. I'm not saying it's automatic, but I really want my guy to have seen this a couple times. 3 would be ideal.
Yeah, that's a great point that I forgot to mention at the top is, yeah, really unique course, really unique circumstances. They don't play a lot of events with much altitude at all, let alone, this much altitude. Getting the irons and the approach distances dialed in is going to be key. So yeah, having played here, at least once, but preferably, like you said, 3 times, I think that's an advantage. Even if the guy didn't play that well, just seeing this course, having, 4, 8, 12 rounds, competition rounds, I think is important. So that's something to look at if you like a guy, but he's never played here. That could be a little bit of a red flag.
No doubt about it. All right, here we go. We got Rory. 11-5, DJ, JT, Rahm, and I guess Decky has crept in. Over on Super Draft, the 4 1Xs are Rahm, JT, Rory, and DJ. No surprise there. What do you make of it? It's easy for me. Obviously, it's Rory. He played. Oh, he choked. He came in 5th. Let's not get crazy. He was there once again. Does everyone go to DJ just because of the course history?
Yeah, I mean, this is tough this week because last week I felt like the pricing was really soft. This week it's hard because I feel like there's a lot of expensive guys I like to play, but not a lot of cheap guys. And I think maybe the pricing difference at the top is going to come more into play. Like you said, there's nothing to not like about Rory. I mean, he's playing great. He's played well here. The ball striking has been phenomenal. but he is $500 more expensive than DJ. And then obviously that gap gets bigger. So he's, you're paying for him, and you can get a price break on some of these other guys. I think DJ will be the most popular. Look, I mean, he's won here twice, but it's kind of like we'll say, like with Hideki at Waste Management. I mean, yes, so we know it's a good fit for him. That doesn't mean he's going to come here and win every single week. He was good the last 2 weeks, but he wasn't great. I mean, he was right there after 3 rounds, but if you look at kind of like the underlying numbers, the ball striking was decent at Riviera, plus 3.7. It wasn't off the charts. And it was right around break even for the 2 rounds at Pebble. So I don't know. To me, I think I'm going to go Rahm. I'm finally off the JT bandwagon after last week. Was really just bad in all 4 facets of the game. I don't think JT should be more expensive than Rahm, who's been consistently good with the ball striking, consistently good with the finishes, T17. But I mean, he's gaining every single week. I like the price break going down to Rahm. I mean, he's the same type of golfer. Obviously fits the same courses that Rory, DJ, JT does. I just like the consistency, and I like the price break. I don't think he should be cheaper than JT.
So it's interesting. Rahm actually played pretty bad last week. He gained 6.5 strokes putting. That really saved him. Not that he was useful because he came in 17th. He was very expensive. But I do think there's going to be some natural leverage. Now, the full leverage is playing JT. Coming off last week, if you think that he bounces back, you're going to get him lower owned than he would have, even if he just made the cut and came in like 20th. This is the spot to buy on JT if you want to take the plunge there. Decky's interesting because of the price bump. Now, he played fantastic. He was first tee to green at Genesis, just couldn't putt. It's amazing, and I believe this was you, and if it wasn't, you should take credit for this tweet anyway. I think you tweeted out, where would he be in both the betting market and even in DK if he would have just not birdied the 36th hole? He'd be looking at a missed cut, and people would be saying, man, Decky's struggling once again.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I mean, obviously there is value. I mean, if people don't know, yeah, he needed a birdie 18. He threw a dart and made like a 3.5 footer, and then obviously went ham on the weekend. And I mean, there's some value to that. I'm not totally disregarding that, but I think it's kind of overvalued. And I feel like if he missed the cut, he'd be 9,400, 9,300. And I don't know if I'm ready to bump him all the way up to 10K just because he ran like the sun on the weekend. Obviously still didn't putt well. But I just think that's going to be a little bit overvalued. I don't think I'm ready to put him up there, with these other guys. So to me, I'm not playing Decky. I think people will go there just because he's, they saw what he did on the weekend, but yeah, I don't think it's for me this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to stick with him to an extent. I've been playing him. He was my number 1 guy last week, and he was pretty helpful. Now we get so Webb is back. That's probably why I had a good Genesis, because Webb wasn't there. Didn't have to deal with it. He's 9,800. Adam Scott, obviously, who won last week. Xander, Chad has already mentioned, WGC guy. We know he gets it done in strong fields, short fields. It's kind of a noisy stat to me. This is where you can either go balanced, or this could be your second man in the 9K range.
Yeah, I mean, this is tough. Webb is always tough. He's like this generation's like Furyk now. I feel like the elite, somewhat elite, like short hitter. But just really totally different player. But I don't think I'm going to get there with him. I like him at weaker fields and courses where traditionally shorter hitters have played well. I don't think I'm going to get there with him at 9,800. I'm going to be back on Xander this week, seemingly like 2 weeks in a row where he didn't play very well, but he was T23 last week and T16 at Waste Management. He's gaining off the tee, he's gaining on approach every single week. Very, as Chat mentioned, he's a prolific winner. We'll just leave it at that. I'm not counting this because it's a smaller field. The guy just wins, and he wins big tournaments. And I like that. I think 9,400 is a good price. I mean, I think he struck it a lot better than the results indicated the last 2 weeks, at least at Riviera and Waste Management. So yeah, I like him as my second guy in. I think it's going to be a tough decision between him and a guy like Bryson, who was obviously amazing last week. The off the tee and approach was really good. But for me, it's like Xander's been doing that week in and week out for a prolonged period of time. I don't know. Is Bryson all the way back? I'm not sure, but I like sort of the consistency and the long-term form of Xander rather than just hoping that Bryson's all the way back and jumping right on him.
So I'll say this. One of the things about I really liked Bryson last week. That was the other reason why I had a pretty good showing. He was 7,900 though. He got an $1,100 price bump in a very strong field. Ownership is going to be there as well because he's playing good. I'm not saying I don't like him. I bet him in the outright market, and you can check out that article over on the site. But is a tough range. I don't mind Xander. You know, he's played here twice, middling results, but again, I think it's just the experience. I really don't care what these guys did per se. What about Fleetwood? I mean, he was runner up here in 2017. We haven't seen him much. He's been over in the Middle East, 9,200. I have no problem with him, but I don't really have a strong take either way.
Yeah, I don't really have a strong take either way. But if I think of just winning this event, I feel like Xander is a much more likely winner, even though the outright market has them both the same, right around 20-1. I say even Bryson, I feel like he's much more of a likely winner of this event than Fleetwood. Fleetwood's great, but I'm just preferential to Xander, or the next guy would be Bryson for me in this range.
Yeah, it's a crowded. Like I said, I like Fleetwood. I do. It's a crowded range, so we'll see. Usti leads off the next range, and I can't assume who's going to play him at 8,900 when you can play Bryson. He's 1.2x over on SuperDraft. I don't mind that. Is he a great tournament play just because of the overpriced nature of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's always a great tournament play when obviously the ownership is not going to be there, because we know his best is really, really good, and he can just be inconsistent. Ranging anywhere from withdrawing to going berserk and winning tournaments like the Open Championship. But yeah, I mean, if the ownership's not there and you can get over with, 10-15%, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. He's just one of those guys where if he's chalky, you want to avoid him like the plague. And if no one's on him, you want to take some pieces. Definitely nothing close to a cash play. But yeah, for, in small quantities, I will endorse Usti this week.
Oh yeah. I actually I wanted to ask this, and I know this is a macro question, and the answer is probably it depends. But do you think there's something to this course where, not Usti particular because he's South African, but like guys who play a lot on the European tour maybe have some advantage? I feel like they see courses that are either at elevation or atypical a lot more than what we see on the PGA tour.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because, like we were talking about in the beginning, this is such a unique course in terms of the PGA Tour. There's really no courses at all that have any elevation. I think the Barracuda is some, but who's playing that? And obviously nobody in this field, except for Morikawa. So yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, they get a more variety of courses. They have the Kranz course, which is, people have tried to make the link between this and that event because that's another mountainous track. But yeah, I think you're right. I think European Tour golfers may have a slight advantage, but it's really hard to quantify that. And I don't know if it's something that I would really take into account, but.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Are you going to ride Matt Kuchar's luck box putter into the Mexican jungles, or is he just no dice at 8,800?
No way I'm even touching Matt Kuchar. That price is pretty egregious.
God, that was, and it's so gross because it's not that I didn't like Kuchar last week. I thought he was a fine play. That was not how people were supposed to get paid off. Right below, like, whatever. You got Paul Casey. You've got Sergio. This is the range we really need to dig into. So we have Paul Casey, Sergio, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Reed, and I'll even throw Gary Woodland in here. I think you can, of course, in a field like this, make a case for any of them. But what are you doing with this range? How do you prioritize what are going to be popular guys?
Yeah, it's tough. Two guys that I had a lot of last week that just could not make a putt, in Paul Casey and Sergio. I'm going to go back to Paul Casey. Struck it a little bit better than Sergio. He led the field in ball striking off the tee and on approach last week. Just couldn't make a putt. Decent results here, 3rd to 12th. A 16th. I just like, super consistent ball striking going back years now. I mean, it just seems like week in and week out, you're just getting solid off the tee and on approach. finally figured out how to win again, won Valspar twice in a row. I like him a little better than Sergio, who he struck it well at Riviera last week. He couldn't putt either, but I think I'm preferential to Casey. I got to vent on Morikawa a little bit.
Please.
So, I mean, everybody loves him. And the ball
I don't love him.
Okay, you don't love him. Good. So the ball striking has been phenomenal. And there's nobody in Twitter on DFS that loves to look at ball striking numbers more than me. Like consistently week in and week out, gaining like 4, 5, 6, 7 strokes without every event. But my thing is, he's won one tournament, which was the Barracuda. So if I told you this player has won one tournament in his career and it was the Barracuda, and he hasn't had a top 10 since the Safeway, I mean, do you think he should be 35-1 in a WGC? Yes, the ball striking is amazing, and the short game has been bad, but everything else has been so good that he's, making cuts and coming in the top 20, but he hasn't contended. He was in the mix for a little bit at Riviera and had a complete meltdown. I love the stats. I love everything about him. He's going to be a stud, but it's like when you're talking about pricing him with Woodland, Reed, Sergio, Casey, I don't see Morikawa winning this event. I don't see him contending in this event.
This is gonna be coffin part of our show if he ever wins, because I don't like him whatsoever here. First of all, he's never seen the course. I just talked about how basically everyone in this field has seen this course, and we saw it. Like, I'm just going to use Bryson because it's the easiest example, and he's the scientist. His irons last year were broken. That's not what killed him. It was the putting, but his irons weren't good either, and he was trying to calculate on the fly. The strength of Morikawa's game is the iron. So if those are off, it's over.
That's a phenomenal point, because he's been decent off the tee, but the approach game has been lights out.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like, oh, he's a great off the tee player and the irons here are the wild. Like the wild card of this tournament is his strength. Honestly, then you want to take it more. And this was in higher stakes, but go across the board, go in large field tournaments. Morikawa is one of the most popular players every single week. It's not like he's 5% and Casey and Sergio are 20% and you're saying, all right, I don't love the spot, but I'm getting 1/4 the ownership. You're paying the tax on ownership with Morikawa too. So I don't see it whatsoever. He's an incredibly talented guy. I actually like him in a vacuum in life, but I constantly am coming in underweight, and that's going to continue to be so. It's not burning me whatsoever. I think if you want to hedge it in cash, it's somewhat acceptable. I'm not even doing that this week, though. He's a complete fade for me. I'd rather play Patrick Reed in addition to the guys you just talked about with Sergio and KC. So that's the rant. If he wins, we will edit this part of the show out, and then we'll say, listen, he's up and coming.
If he wins, we might not be back next week.
But we got a lot of other good golf content people, so you'll see some new faces. What about Gary Woodland? He didn't play last week, one of the few who wasn't in attendance of the big names. Him and Bubba are in the low 8s. Now, Bubba, we don't get many things right on the show. We were not Bubba, a lot of people were on him last week. We got away with it. Now, he, truth be told, should have made that cut, and he missed on the number. That happens. Very lucky for me and the people that faded him. Do you go right back to him? Do you go to Woodland, or is it not really there for either of them?
I don't think I'll play Woodland, but I definitely think he's interesting in a similar fashion to like an Usti. I don't think a lot of people will be going there. Very talented guy. If you can get him at low ownership, I don't have any problem with Woodland. Bubba, this course, and I know he came in 9th here in 2018, but this course seems like a nightmare for him, to be honest. It just seems like one of the courses where he would hate and he would check out. So he's played her 3 times, 27th and 9th, 38th. So not good results. Cooled off last week by missing the cut at Riviera. I'm not going to Bubba. This screams like a bad track for Bubba, having to calculate approach distances and just, we're in a different country and all kinds of weird stuff that doesn't mesh well with Bubba. And it's funny that you brought up Bryson, because this place broke his approach. Like, his game was broken for a straight year after this event.
Listen, and this is why I really strongly, now he's interesting because he obviously has seen the course once now. Will that make a big difference? Because he clearly didn't like it here. that remains to be seen. But for me, experience is what matters. Bubba, I think the longer he plays here, the more apparent it's going to be that this is probably just not his jam. I would rather play basically anyone else. Spieth, any thoughts on him? He was once again, middling at best. Pretty ugly on Sunday. He's flat 8K.
I would say it was awful. He was almost dead last besides Martin Trainer in ball striking last week. He lost 7 strokes. So no, this is probably a better. I'm not going to go back and victory lap something, but Riviera is not a good course for him. I know he has some good results there, but that's not a great course for him. This is probably a better fit. But no, he hasn't showed anything. I'm not going there. I like Leishman at 8,100. I really like him. He's striking it really, really well. Actually, the worst ball striking performance of his last 3 events was the one that he won at the Farmers, and he still gained 4.3 over those 3 measured rounds, but he was just lights out putting that event. So you go to the one prior to that was the Sony, where he's T28, gained 11.1 off the tee and on approach, which is like almost unheard of. That's just an absolutely ridiculous ball striking performance, but he couldn't putt there. Goes to Farmers, he wins that. And then last week he gained 6.8 with the ball striking and couldn't putt again. But he's really gone through a 3-event stretch where he's had some of the best ball striking on tour. I've always liked Leishman. I've kind of there was a point where I thought he'd win a major a few years ago, but now it just seems like there's so many good young and up-and-coming players. I don't know if he still will win a major, but kind of like a Lowry guy, can win some big tournaments, a little bit inconsistent. Maybe he gets a WGC and a major. But yeah, I don't think a ton of people will play him.
No.
Not good course history, but like you said, he's played here, so that at least helps some. But he's really underrated. I mean, I know he's won an event in his last 3 starts, but really those 3 starts, if you look at him as a whole, he's been really, really good for all 3 of them.
He's an interesting guy in general. I'm a Leishman fan. I think people know that. Guy could have some, a couple, and you could say this about a lot of golfers, but a couple things break his way and people would look at him a lot differently. He easily could have a major, can compete in any field. And yes, you can look for reasons. Obviously, when you come in 62nd in this tournament, that's very, very bad. He lost 9.3 strokes putting last year here. I mean, what are you going to do if you do that? You should come in basically last. So I don't read much into it. Not going to be popular for me, just because it's me. I will probably lean to Matthew Fitzpatrick in terms of GPP targets in the same range. Gained 5.5 strokes with the approach last week. Crafty, can putt. Not going to be, played in majors, plays in WGCs. Middling guys. Again, these are just like tournament plays. Ownership's going to be elevated across the board because there's only 70-something guys. And now we break into the high 7s with Sungjae Im, who missed on the number as well. Rare miscut for him. I really don't have a strong take on him, but do you like him, or are you going Answer or some of these other dudes?
This is not a range that I like at all, honestly. Im, I've just never been as high on Im as I guess the rest of the field has. And he's been good in flashes and kind of mediocre in stretches as well. So I don't really feel like I'm missing out. I mean, last week, obviously he killed a lot of people. I'm just never as high on him as some other people are. Boy, I don't know. Snedeker? Yeah. What do you think about Sneds this week?
So I pulled the U. I bet Sneds at 80-1. Because he's a good POA putter. He can get crazy hot. He's only played here once, came in 7th. Now, the downside, he's not playing well. I think he's very live to absolutely torpedo lineups, but he's one of the biggest boom bust options. That's why I bet him. People mentioned Cameron Smith. I know the Aussies are reigning supreme in golf right now. I personally don't see it with him. It's a tough guy to gauge. We know he's good in strong fields, but are you on Cameron Smith at all?
I literally never am on Cameron Smith, and I would never ever play Cameron Smith over Snedeker at the same price. They're literally the same player, except Snedeker has won a million good PGA Tour events. Okay. I mean, they're the same player, except Snedeker is just way better.
Yeah, I mean that is more true than not. Cameron Smith, I just can't figure out. Listen, and I know Sneds has elements of that, but I feel like I have a better pulse on what goes on. But you know what you're getting. You're right. They're going to do it with the short game. They're going to lose off the tee probably. Shane Lowry's there. Again, not a strong take. I think Answer will get some artificial boost because he's playing, he's got the home country bump. This is a dead range for me. I hate to say it. And then your boy, Victor Perez, who's going to be incredibly low on because nobody, I'm sure diligent people know who he is, but a lot of people are going to say, who the hell is that? With good reason.
I mean, Victor Perez played well in the Mideast swing. I don't think I'm going there. Connors? Can I just tout Connors every week? He was so good on Thursday, and then he was very bad on Friday.
I was going to say, he got cut, didn't he? Yeah.
He missed the cut, yeah.
Okay.
I think he had 8 birdie putts inside of 10 feet on Thursday. That's not bad. That's not bad around Riviera. No, I mean, I feel like I'm going to be going like superstars and scrubs, and that's probably going to eliminate this range for me. I'll give you the 2 guys that I like the most are in the low sevens. It'd be Kisner at 7,200. Played here 3 times, so he's seen the course. Yeah, not great results, not great form, but I think if you think about a guy that's in the low sevens or in this range who potentially could win this event, I think Kisner comes to mind over some of these other guys like Bobby Mack or Molinari or Kang or Kokrak or guys like that. I mean, Kisner is a threat to win this event. I mean, we've seen him kind of compete in events like this. Like we said, it doesn't take a ton of length here, so I don't mind Kisner. And the other guy would be Scheffler, I think, who the ball striking is phenomenal off the tee, is great. I don't know if he has kind of the winning potential that Kisner has, but I mean, I think he can make a ton of birdies and eagles and possibly outscore a guy like Kisner if they were both to say come in like T20. So, I mean, Scheffler for the birdies and eagles, Kisner more for a guy that I think could contend here.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up Ty Hatton, to be honest. It's someone he's got some good course history here, 7,400. I think the game sets up pretty well for what he needs to do. We haven't really seen him. That's the one thing. Did he pique your interest at all or just nothing?
Not really, but then I saw that he first event back from like a wrist injury or something. So I don't know. It's I guess, there's a little bit you can be more apt to play a guy like that. I don't think I'm going there though.
Fair enough. Benny Yon is 7,400. We know what his deal is. He's played here twice. He lost 6 strokes putting 1 year. He lost 4 strokes another year. He just had a baby. Congrats to him. He hasn't played in the last couple of weeks. I think it's fine. He's a good scrambler, can get in the mix. But again, this is a range. I'm not sure how much exposure I'm going to have to any of these guys. Just to talk about Kisner briefly, I think we all know what he can do. He's a really good putter, can get wedges in his hand here, do his thing. He's won a WGC. It was a match play. Not that matters. Kurt Kitayama. People are starting to come around on this guy. No?
People are coming around on him, yes, but he hasn't played here. And I'm still not ready to put him ahead of a guy like Kisner. I mean, these guys, Kisner's been around for a long time. We've seen him play great in big events. We've seen him win multiple times and contend numerous other times. It's just hard for me to go to a guy like Kitayama at exactly the same price. He's never seen this course, and I mean, in my opinion, not the quality of golfer that Kisner is right now.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And this is where this is a weird range because there's just a blend of so many guys. You have guys like you mentioned, Bobby McIntyre, Wiesberger, like true European Tour guys. Then you've got the Billy Hoes, Kisners of the world. Then you've got the Schefflers. And then there's Molinari, who I have no interest in. Again, he's eventually going to turn it back around, I'm sure. But he's been so bad. No interest again?
No. Okay. Somehow he got $100 more expensive after being like pretty much dead last. And
yeah, he lost across the board again. Sun Kang, to me, is a pretty easy fade. I think people will chase that. He's got some upside. He always did. But not for me. I mean, anything else before we dive into the sixes? with the low sevens here?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. I do want to say real quick, as we always say, if you haven't signed up for awesemo.com plus, come on in. We'd love to have you. I know it's the All-Star break. That's why we're running a promo with the word break. You get some free stuff. Where do we got it? 8 days of Awesemo Plus All Access for only $15 during the NBA All-Star break. So you can come in, get some golf, you get some NASCAR. We got other stuff going on, NHL, of course. We'd love to have you guys try out the product. Obviously, we love bringing this stuff to you, but we have so much more with ownership and projections and all that. Oh boy, here we go. Matthias Schwab. You know, it's so gross because I truly was the first Matthias Schwab mountain, and I feel like we got paid off at the other WGC. So now I'm a little confused at what to do here.
You're looking to the wrong guy for Matthias Schwab takes. So you're on your own, man. You're on your own.
He is great. I will say that if ownership even remotely creeps up, and I don't know if it'll creep up to any alarming levels, Christian Boozen, whatever his name is, from South Africa, is a damn good player. He'll be probably even lower owned. So you have options if you're looking for a flyer at 6,900.
I mean, the upper six range, I think, is just a dead range for me. I'd rather go down to guys like EVR, maybe like Matt Wallace. I think people are going to go to Ortiz.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk about him. Chat has been mentioning him. Take it away.
Yeah. Well, you know, he was popular last week and he paid people off. He ended up T26, but I believe he was kind of bumping around like top 15 for a while there. So he's a guy who's been popular recently and he's paid people off. I think people are going to go back to him for that reason. Playing in Mexico, I guess he gets in because he's the highest ranked player from Mexico that's not already qualified. I mean, I don't understand. I'm not sure why he's here. I think that's maybe why. Kind of doesn't belong in this field. But yeah, I think people are going to go to Ortiz based on what he did at Riviera in the week before. And people have been playing him. I just don't think – I think EVR Van Ruin, I think, is a better player than him. We've seen him in a couple big events at least have some decent finishes. Matt Wallace, same thing. The form isn't that good right now. But he's another guy. He's won a ton of events in Europe, kind of like Noren-esque, like won a bunch of European events. And we've seen him play well in some, majors, WGCs or bigger tour events. Form's not great, but I'd take EVR. I'd take Wallace over a guy like Ortiz.
Wallace is tough for me. He had a massive run. He's third at the PGA, was good in Florida, was gaining strokes putting like there was no tomorrow. Now it's kind of cooled off, but he's still pretty good bang for your buck. I would lean to EVR as well. He's coming off the miscut at Genesis. I actually think that's a good thing. People are going to just think, yeah, I mean, that's a tough course. Listen, and he's 6,600 here. This is a guy that, if you zoom out, good ball striker, has played in WGCs, has played in majors. I feel a lot more comfortable with him than some of these other names. You look at like Lucas or Herbert or whatever his name is, Jazz Janawananan, Lanto. Like, I don't see a ton to reach for here. Most of these guys also haven't played the course, which is no surprise. That's an even tougher uphill battle for the majority of the 6K range.
Yeah, it's my goal is no more than one guy with no picture per lineup. So you don't want to. You definitely don't want to jam in two no picture guys in the same lineup.
Stack them. Yeah.
I mean, can we go all the way down?
Who, to Xander?
Yeah, can you play Xander this week? The other Xander with a Z.
The better Xander, honestly. So yeah, Xander Lombard he's certainly a passion project of mine that I've dumped a lot of money into over the years. Listen, I think the only reason that you would play him truly is if you say, I think that Rory, it's going to be a repeat. I think that DJ and Rory are going to come like 1-2. And I need somebody that low. Would I play him over Tae Lee? And I don't know who Zach Murray is, so I would. Now, Xander Lombard could get crazy hot. He's an egregious scorer. I would rather just play Justin Harding for $200 more, who's one of the better broomstick putters in the world. That's and Scott Hend is there, your boy.
Nelson Adcock's boy, the putting god, South African Denny McCarthy, Justin Harding.
Talk to me. I got two guys though. Lorenzo Vera, that's a real name. He's a player. He's been middling results. 6,400. He's from France, coming off a miscut at Saudi, but he was good in Omega. Any interest there? And then at the same price, Ryan Fox, who is one of the most extreme bombers in the world, off the tee.
I think I tried to go the Ryan Fox route last year here, and it did not work out. Boy, I don't know. Neither of those guys really interest me. Fox is, he's just crazy. He's a guy that I feel like can really, once it gets going bad, can really go bad. So maybe I'd lean Lorenzo Vera. I think just a little bit more of a well-rounded player and some decent results. Boy, Lombard. I feel like he had me with Lombard because if you look, he was 8th at the Nedbank and 17th at the Turkish Airlines. Now that was a while ago, but those are the FedEx Cup of the European Tour. Two decent results in fairly strong European Tour fields. After that, not much. 34th in Dubai, 58th in the other Dubai Desert Classic. Then he missed the cut at Saudi. So I was like, all right, we're kind of, not bad. But then he played this RAM Cape Town Open and he missed the cut in his last event. And that kind of scared me because I have no idea what event that is. It's an African Tour Challenge Tour event. And
what?
Yeah, the RAM Cape Town Open. Field strength of 5.
Who won it? Do you have that handy?
Anton Carlson beat Garrick Higo and Toby Tree.
Toby Tree.
Yeah.
I believe he's somebody. Xander Lombard, honestly, we don't need to spend a ton of time on this. I'll just say this.
We
already have. This describes him perfectly. WGC HSBC back in October. He came in not good wherever he was, 72nd. He had 14 birdies. He had 4 double bogeys, and he had 2 others. So that just shows you exactly what he does. He's going to make some big mistakes. Again, the only reason you're going down that low is for lineup construction purposes. If you jam Rory, DJ, and Bryson, well, don't do that's even too extreme, but something like that is really what I'd recommend. But there's a big difference between flat 6K and the guys at 6,500, EVR, Matt Wallace. For me, Lorenzo Vera, maybe a little bit if I get into a jam. And then obviously going up, the guys we talked about, the Schefflers, Schwab to an extent. But chat wants to know, you have any feel on Brendan Todd, who is one of your old-time favorites?
He's not been good outside of that really good stretch that he had around, what was it, Bermuda and Mayakoba and that little three event stretch where he was awesome. But outside of that, not good. So no. And 6,800 is really not that great of a price either.
No, it's not.
It's not like he's 6,200 or something. There's other better golfers up there than him, and he's just not playing well. Again, not as bad as it was, but the 2 wins in that third event, I think, where he was in the mix, that seems like a long time ago for him. Not the same player.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a reach pretty much everywhere. Over on SuperDraft, I will say Kitayama's 1.35x. That's one of the highest in the entire field. I think that's pretty interesting. If you're looking at that, me and Jason Roslin will dig more into that tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern, when we talk lineup construction, answering that. Are you a fan? I should know this because we've done a lot of WGCs. Do you like to bet these events, or do you want a full field?
Not my favorite betting. My favorite betting events are actually the really bad ones.
Because it's wide open.
Not quite Puerto Rico, but I think courses that I feel like have a specific fit, like Harbor Town, John Deere, stuff like that, like poor events, and I really feel like I know what kind of winner it's going to produce. So, yeah, it's so hard. I don't know how it's impossible for me to pick and say whether. This goes for DFS purposes as well. It's like, well, Rory or DJ or JT. It's like handicapping that from a betting perspective is impossible. So no, not a fan of betting, but you can get some better numbers on sort of middle of the road type players like your Sergios, Casey's. I bet Leishman this week. I talked about him a bit on how good the ball striking was and how much I'm just kind of a fan of his game. He was 50-1, which I think is a decent price. I'm not one to bet guys at sub 20-1, sub 30-1 very often. So I think 50-1, decent number. Ball striking over the last 3 events has been really, really solid. So I like that. And just I don't think people are really going to be onto that. Obviously, they're going to see the win, but he was really good. He was really good at Sony, and he was good again last week.
Man, Leishman, that's interesting. I'll have to look more at him. He's someone I did not have a take on. I'm with you, honestly, on both the points. I like events like this in the betting market because you get an opportunity to take world-class players outside the top end guys at 20, 25-1, 30-1. You just don't see those numbers too often. On the flip side, you've got 4 or 5 guys in this field that when they're on, and it's hard to imagine one of them isn't, they win a lot. And it's just really hard. We don't see many WGCs won by non-elite players. Can it happen? Sure. But even when we do, it's like the Leishman Kisners of the world. You don't see someone from out of nowhere win a WGC. And it's hard to imagine that trend breaking anytime soon.
Yeah, that's a great point. And even look back to last week. You really have to adjust your betting strategy. I like to bet the long shots, which is maybe why I like those other tournaments a little more than betting these events. This is an event where, you just have to kind of dial it in and say, it's probably not going to be somebody outside of, the 50-1 range. Yeah, maybe you can get like Woodland, Sergio, one of those guys. But it's very unlikely that, Lucas Glover is going to come out and win, a WGC this week.
Major winner, Lucas Glover. I listen. I echo those thoughts as well. I do want to say real quick, I had something else I wanted to say, and now I just can't remember because my memory is shot. There is Puerto Rico. Just listen to these names. We've got Hovland, Noren, Maverick, Tom Lewis, and Griot leading the salaries. So that lets you know what you're dealing with over there. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I thought Peter Uihlein won on the Korn Ferry Tour because of the Genesis coverage. Did you see that last week?
Yeah, I did not see them show the highlights, but then I was reading an article, I think it was this morning, about how bad the coverage was, and they were talking about that where they showed Peter Uihlein who ended up finishing like whatever. T20.
Not the answer. My boy, Peter Uihlein. I'm not doing too much for Puerto Rico. Chat, you guys they got Bobby Garrigus takes. More power to you. But final thoughts before we dive on out of here. I know you said stars and scrubs, but with the lack of, talent, for lack of a better word, in the 6K range, will you adjust that, or are you comfortable saying, you know what, I really like these guys up top. I'm going to hitch my wagons to the Matt Wallace's EVRs of the world and take my chances?
Yeah, I really do like those guys at the top. And like you said, this is just an event where you generally aren't getting a ton of guys from down low, contending. So I'm just going to try and jam as many of those guys in. And I'm not going to make a ton of lineups because there's not a ton of guys I feel confident about in the lower range. But, pick and choose a couple of those guys and kind of hope to get lucky. I know that sounds weird, but it's almost what you have to do. Because it's really, I do not have a strong feeling below, besides Kisner at 7,200. Below that, I don't have a strong feeling about any of those guys. But I really feel like you need to have as much firepower at the top as you can. So you're gonna have to kind of weigh that out and figure it out for yourself. So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be Kisner and probably a dart throw, and then see how many studs I can jam in.
That's what it's about. I say this a lot, and of course it's a macro point, but for me, when I look towards the bottom of when I'm building my lineups, I'd rather have a guy do one thing pretty elite and have glaring leaks in his game than just be average or to pretty bad across the board. Because if you do something incredible and the course sets up where that becomes pertinent, you can lean on it to a really good finish. If you don't really do anything fantastic, you're probably just going to come in 50th a lot. And that doesn't work in a 200,000 person tournament. So you got to embrace that, build accordingly. Not that Ryan Fox is the answer, but that concept is what I would be going to.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's also a great point about the T50 not doing anything. I think a lot of people feel like they can make a lineup and throw in one guy at the low 6 range and be like, well, the rest of my lineup is going to be so good that it really doesn't matter what this guy does. And that's really like not the case unless you plan on going like 1 through 5 and then having a guy at T50, which is really totally unrealistic. I mean,
You still
your
lose.
guy, all 6 guys are going to have to perform in one facet or another. So you can't really throw away a spot. And I know with some of these punts, it's going to feel like you are, but you're going to need that guy to come through. I mean, he can't finish T60 because that's just not going to get it done, no matter how good the rest of your lineup is.
No, it's very true. Like I said, I know that non-cuts, you're the allure of getting 72 holes you can rationalize it by saying, I get 72 holes. How bad can it be? You know, maybe he'll outscore his placement. You still have to have the mentality that there's a cut, in the sense that you need these guys ultimately to get there. Do they have to get there after Friday? No, of course not. But over the 72 holes, they're going to have to make a move at some time. So that's really where my final thought is. We had one last question that I want to get to from Mike. He was saying basically what we kind of talked about taking someone with no course history, because towards the bottom, you're kind of forced to do that. I don't think you should just cross off guys who haven't played here. But if I have 2 guys that are close, I'm going with the guy who has experience, even if it's bad. I think it's just important to have played the course. So it's not a death sentence, but it's not ideal for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see down the road how course history plays out. But yeah, I mean, this looks like a place where it could take a time to get the hang of this track. So just seeing the course, even if you haven't played well, is an advantage. But obviously, if the guy's 6,200, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to
Yeah,
just have to bite the bullet and play the guy if that's the kind of roster construction route that you're going.
Truer words have never been spoken. All right. Like I said, tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern, me and Jason Roslin will be answering your questions. Chat. We love having you guys. Some new faces today. I hope that's not just because of the NBA All-Star break, but if it is, we hope even when basketball resumes, you guys will stick with the show. We have a really good time here, and you guys being interactive makes it that much more fun. If you can hit the like button on your way out, we'd appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter. You can do all that good stuff. Pump those numbers so Tim can get those retweets. That's what it's really all about on this show. But good luck, everyone. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see everyone tomorrow night.